Hello, hello. Hi, everyone, amigos, amigas from all over the world. Welcome to Lima, Peru. Welcome to the capital of this beautiful land known as the country of the Incas, the home of the Incas, but also the home of the fusion and multiculturality. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for visiting my city. My name is Vanessa Vasquez. I am your Heigo guide in Lima, Peru. So, hola amigos, hello, ¿cómo están? Hi, Jorge, Jan, Anastasia, Adrian, hola, hola. Corinne, hello, thanks a lot for coming. Hi, Cari, Diana, Berham, gracias, amigo mío. Olena, Maji, it is always a pleasure to have you, Berhan. Thanks so much. Hi, Jean. Hola, hola. ¿Qué tal? ¿Todo bien? Todo fantástico, Jorge. Thanks a lot for coming. Hi, Diana. Good morning. I really hope you enjoyed today's adventure in downtown Lima. First of all, thanks a lot for coming today with me, for your interest in the history of my city, Lima. Today we're going to visit the historic center of the city, the place where pretty much the history of Lima started, the history as a Spanish founded city, because we have a history that is way older than the coming of the conquistadors in the whole country. We are the land of the Incas, but also the land of the pre-Inca cultures. The history of Peru dates back to nearly 5,000 years ago, with the oldest civilization that appeared in this part of the world, in the southern hemisphere, Caral. So today we're going to talk about the coming of the conquistadors, the fusion of the Incan culture and the Spanish culture, producing in part who we are nowadays, who I am in this moment. Peruvians, and in particular Limanians, are the mix, the blend of lots of different influences. We are not just the children of the Incas and the children of the Spaniards. We are also the children of the African immigrants who were forced to come to Peru also in the colonial times. We are the children of the Chinese, the Japanese, the Italians, the Polish, the English. We are the children of the world. So today we're going together to explore the historic center of Lima, a place that was founded at the time of the arrival of the conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro. Conquistador Pizarro is very, very famous around the world, especially in this part of the world, because he was the person who defeated the Inca Empire. And he created Lima in the year 1535. So we're going to talk about the foundation of Lima and how everything was turned upside down after the arrival of those bearded, white-skinned men back in the year 1535. So are you ready to start this tour? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready, please. I hope you enjoy today's adventure. If you have questions, please use the comment section. Feel free to do it. Feel free to chat. Feel free to interact. I have no problems about that. I love interaction, my friends. And also, I love to know your comments about the tour, please. So, muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you, Ellie. So, I think it is a good time to start with this tour. So, let's do it. And I would like to know if there's anyone in the group that has already been in Lima, that has traveled to Lima, that is from Lima maybe. I would like to know here, maybe someone has been in the city, because probably if you've been here maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you're going to find some similarities, but also some improvements, I hope. Oh, I'm so happy, Jorge. I'm so happy you've been already here in Lima. We are looking in this moment to the most important natural element in the city of Lima, the reason of the existence of people, of fauna, of flora in this location. This is Rimac River. So Rimac River comes from the Andes. It is born in the Andes, in the highest peaks of the central Andes of Peru. And Rimac River was considered a sacred element by the indigenous that live in this part of the country, in my city, before the coming of the conquistadors. for, of course, obvious reasons. Without the river, we wouldn't be able to live in this part of the country, because the city of Lima is the second biggest city in the world built on a desert. I don't know if you knew this before, but Lima is located on a desert. In the coast of Peru, we don't have really much rain. There are zones in the coast where rains almost nothing. In Lima, we get about 1 cubic centimeter of rain per year. That's less than 1 inch of rain per year. The altitude of Lima, Robert, is almost at the sea level. For example, the location where we are is about 100 meters above sea level. So it's really very low. And you can see in the distance, of course, the way of the river is the ocean. So the ocean is in that location. But we are quite far from the ocean. If you also can notice, there is a map in the upper part of the screen where you can see also the route of today's tour. What is the name of the mountain on the left? Anastasia, thanks for your question. First of all, the mountain range you see here in the distance, and as we continue also describing the nature of Lima, you know we are in a desert place where rains very little, but Lima is flanked by two colossus. We have the mountain range, the Andes, that is basically part of the Andes range, but those hills, we call them foothills of the Andes. And this hill in particular, this mountain in particular, is very special because the indigenous of Lima, this we know thanks to the chronicles of the Spaniards, they pay very special respects to this hill. They consider this hill to be very special. This is one of the apus, one of the protectors of the indigenous people in the pre-Hispanic times. Nowadays, it is called San Cristobal or Saint Christopher Hill. We don't know the name, Inca name or Quechua name given to this hill, but when the Spaniards came, of course, they Christianized the hill, so they changed the name into a Christian one, San Christopher, right? So now we're going to continue moving in direction to the historic center, and also in another occasion, I would like to take you in direction to that part of the city, Rimac district. So please stay tuned to this series of the Historic Center. And if you can, please follow my channel. So in that way, you're going to get information about the upcoming tours. So what is special about this zone? This is part also of the UNESCO Heritage part of Lima. Is another neighborhood is called Rimac, and this is the zone where the black African slaves were put to live. So this is the zone of the calpones, the shacks where the slaves were moved first prior to come into the city center. How many people live in Lima nowadays? I assume, Robert, right? So nowadays in Lima, we have approximately 11 million inhabitants in Lima. And something very interesting is that we have 1/3 of the population of the whole country in this moment in the capital of Peru, in the desert. I am showing you also, amigos, a picture of the bridge where we are back at the end of the 19th century, and also, well, the same perspective, let's say, but there's something different if you compare the picture and you compare the view that I'm giving you in this moment. There is a church. There are a couple of towers of a church at the end of the bridge. Now we don't have the church. The reason is because the church was destroyed, let's say, moved away to increase the size of the house of the president of Peru. That was the Church of the Helpless Ones of Lima. And also, there is another interesting image I'm sharing with you. And there you can see the same bridge. This bridge is called the Puente de Piedra, or the Stone Bridge, inaugurated in the year 1610. So it is amazing, how things were made in the old days to last forever. So the bridge, which was made in a cement-like material made from water, sand, pebbles, limestone also, that is what we call in Spanish calicanto, ended in a beautiful gate. Can you notice the gate, right, at the end of that bridge? That gate we used to be right here in this section. where in this moment I am standing. There's no gate in this moment. That was one of the gates into the city. And over here, we can see something really incredible, my friends. This section, where you can see also some new elements being added, we have the foundation of the original arch, the gate into the city, one of the gates into the city. So there is a project to bring back the design of the same sort of like element to decorate this access into the historic center. So can you imagine the beautiful gate here? That would be fantastic. So I have here a question also. Hi, Bernhard, amigo. How much water does the Lima carry at the most? Well, Bernhard, my friend, I don't have the exact amount of, let's say, liters per hour, but in the time of the Niño phenomenon, we have every 15 years a Niño phenomenon. The water of the river goes so high that sometimes it has reached almost the section that I will show you, the border over here. Right? So sometimes the river has been so powerful that the whole bridge has been even covered with water, and this access also closed. No? El Niño phenomenon, of course, is not something we have every year. As I said before, usually it happens every 15 years, but it is also unpredictable. Is the unusual or abnormal increase of rainfall in zones where usually we don't have rain, like for example the coast. So that's why when we have El Niño, the coast of Peru, which is not adapted for rain, it can be also damaged. And especially look at the material, for example, of the houses in the historic center of Lima and the coast. These houses are made of a combination that is not really very friendly in terms of rainfall, because it is made from mud bricks. This is a house, traditional colonial style house of mud bricks and wood dindles, wood balconies. So this is not really good material for heavy rains. Also notice that we have here a very interesting symbol. Who knows what this symbol represents? Does anyone knows the meaning of this symbol? Please let me know in the comment section. So the symbol that we are seeing here, and you will see it also in other parts of the historic center, is related also with the status of this site, the importance of this site, not just for us citizens of Lima, not just for us Peruvian people, also for the world. So probably you have already noticed that this symbol is also in other parts of the world. In Europe, for example, you'll see it. That symbol represents that we are in a UNESCO site. The Historic Center of Lima is part of this famous, prestigious international list that has included places in Poland, in the distant Poland, in Italy, in France, everywhere around the world. There is a UNESCO site, at least. So this UNESCO list includes us since the year 1991. So it's important to notice that it is a mandatory, it's compulsory for us to take care of each one of the buildings we have here. And one of the most important residences we have in the Historic Center of Lima is this museum. The name of this museum is Casa Aliaga. The Casa Aliaga, Casa of Family Aliaga, is considered not just an amazing example of the architecture, the evolution of the architecture in Lima since the colonial era until pretty much the beginnings of the 20th century. So just notice the evolution that we can find, the process of evolution we can find inside this home. Also, another important thing about the house is the fact that it is still home of the descendants of the conquistador who built this house. The family Aliaga has lived in this house for nearly 18 generations, my friends. And they open the doors of the house to the world. Visitors, as you can see, we've seen a group of tourists coming inside to see parts of the house, of course, but they use also another section of the house. Also, look at this really beautiful wooden balcony on the top. We have here this lovely element that is what we call a Republican balcony, but they are also quite alike to the colonial balconies, which we're going to see in a moment. Robert is asking, thanks Robert for your question. What is the sister city of Lima? I am not very sure about the sister city of Lima. I remember, for example, Miraflores has a sister city, also called Miraflores in, let's say, in Argentina, Olivar or San Isidro district as well, another one in Argentina, but I will look for it. So just give me a second. I'll try to look for this answer, Robert. Thanks a lot for your question, my friend. Muchas gracias. So over here we have another very interesting element, and notice here the also missing part that must have been amazing to see it. We have this metallic structure here in this corridor that used to be covered with painted glass, French painted glass. So this part of the architecture we have in this corridor used to be destined as a mail office. This was the mail office and also the telegraph office of Lima. So all of this architecture with the French influence of the, for example, Art Nouveau, that you will see in Lima, in different parts also of the historic center, arrived in the last decades of the 19th century. So Lima is sort of like a fusion of different styles, of different fashions, and it is very curious to see that all of these different styles are coexisting together in this place. And there is a Jose Martin's Flamingo Dream flag. Oh, learn what and you're doing. Yes, Nicoleta. I'm so happy you came on my street art tour. Thank you. We were also in last tour. We were in Miraflores doing a street art, a focus in a street art tour, and we saw also a mural that depicted a little bit how, through a story, through a tale, how the flag of Peru ended up being like this. There's a story that says that liberator Jose de San Martin had a dream, and in that dream he saw flamingos flying, and one of those flamingos turned into a flag. So what street are we on? Jorge, let me show you here a little bit of the location first of all. We are walking next to the house of the President of Peru. So you can see here, this street, also known as Calle Palacio or Palace Street, is where the house of the Aliaga descent is located. Also, this is one of the entrances into the house of the President of Peru. So look at this beauty over here. We are just one or half a block away from the main square of Lima. So we are getting very, very close to the main square of the city. And notice also the amount of people in this part. Now we are finally back in terms of tourism. We are very happy to see the presence of lots of different people from the world coming to see Lima, coming to enjoy the museums of the city. But notice something, there's a little parenthesis, that everybody or most people are using face masks still. It is not compulsory to use it in the streets, but it is recommended. And usually in tour groups, people recommend travelers that usually are not coming from the same family circle, right, to use them when they are in the tours or in the buses. Gracias, Bern, and thanks for your comment. Here we have this. Oh, Adrian, yes, gracias. Gracias. We have lots of different beautiful sister cities. Gracias, Adrian. So very, very interesting also question from Robert. So over here we have the main square of Lima, amigos. And here we have the chance to talk about the coming of the conquistadors, the coming of the Spanish. So the Spanish conquistadors arrived to Lima in the year 1535. It was January 18, 1535, when they came for the first time to the city. And let me tell you also what they were able to find here. For example, some specialists mentioned that in the section where nowadays we have the main square of Lima, probably there used to be a Incan city and an Incan plaza right here. Of course, there is no consensus in terms of the, let's say, the presence of this Incan city. It might have been probably at least a place where the indigenous have lived at some point, but we don't know for sure if there was Inca construction in this place. There's no consensus. There are specialists that say yes, there are specialists that say no. Why some people say no? Well, because they are not really like major materials or, let's say, foundation elements connected with an ancient architecture around the plaza. But also, there are other suppositions, there are other specialists who say that probably there used to be several of these constructions around, but at the time of the coming of the conquistadors, they were teared down, they were changed, they were replaced by new constructions. So that could be also an answer for the reason why there's no Incan architecture here. But also there are accounts of Spaniards who mention, but of course they were not part of the team of the Spanish conquistadors, they came later, who mentioned that there used to be an Inca city here in this place. So, of course, still we used to have Inca presence nearby. And in the picture I show you over there, you can see different Inca trails that they used to exist in this location. In the center of the picture I show you, you can see also part of the river and the location where nowadays the main square is. So now I will show you another picture. And in this other picture, we can see Lima designed to be a square city. And not in the center, but in one side of the city, the main square was located. So one of the reasons, probably, as I said before, is that there was already an Incan plaza in this place, and that's why Conquistador Pizarro chose this site to build the plaza. So, Robert, are there any Inca treasures in a museum in Peru? Of course, indeed. So if we're talking about gold and silver, Robert, yes. Museums that I can recommend you to visit in Lima are, for example, Larco Museum, the Gold Museum of Peru also. They are wonderful. And also there's another one, Amano Museum. They are private collections in Lima, but they have beautiful pieces of art, like from fabrics to gold, silver, which we will consider treasures, of course. When the Spaniards came, they also, in this process of evangelization and also to obtain gold and silver as well to be sent to Spain, because that was pretty much the reason also they were here conquering this land, they took away lots of golden objects of the Incas, and they transformed them into, let's say, they broke them, or they melt them, or they just sent them. And eventually also they even coined some of these, let's say, old coins that were made here, produced here in Lima with gold extracted or taken from temples. But the gold that we see nowadays in museums, my friends, they are not gold that were taken from temples. They are gold pieces or silver pieces that were obtained in tombs. Also, they were all hidden in tombs. So that's how they remain, right, in these times. So I would like to now give you an idea of the place where we are in terms of sort of like space, which buildings are around, which sites are also surrounding the historic center. So we're going now first to show you one by one, okay, the most important buildings. So we are in this moment in front of the City Hall of Lima. In the colonial times, this was the Cabildo. So the City Hall of Lima is the building, the office that represents the people, of course, of Lima. In the colonial times, the Cabildo also look after the needs of the people of the city, the commoners of Lima, and also the important people of Lima. So the City Hall of Lima, the one you see nowadays, is a construction from the 1940s. Is what we call neo-colonial. This is neo-colonial architecture. It is not from the 16th or 17th century, but many people think it is because it looks so beautiful, especially these wooden balconies you see over here. Unfortunately, Lima not just suffer in its history of many earthquakes and also, well, let's say minimal tremors, like always moving different sites of the city and damaging constructions, major earthquakes also that were over 7 Richter scale in some cases. But we also suffer of other thing that was very common, or the terrible thing, which were fires. Also, we had lots of fires in Lima in the old days, in the colonial times. So that's also a reason of renovation, constant renovation. Here you have, for example, the coat of arms of Lima, and this is the flag of Lima. The flag of Lima is yellow color, amarillo, yellow color. That flag is the flag of Peru. That's a different one. This is Lima, this is Peru flag. Right? So we have in the center of the coat of arms, and let me also do a little zoom. I hope you can get to see this in detail. So in the zoom that I'm doing, you can see the coat of arms of Lima. You can see the eagles representing the Habsburg house. That was the reigning house when the conquistadors came to this location. And also you can see here 3 crowns and 1 star. So 3 crowns and 1 star. The reason of the 3 crowns is really curious. It is connected with a religious Catholic celebration, the one of the Magi kings, the celebration of the Epiphany, the Magi kings, the wise men. The celebration is on January the 6th. There is a story that says, I will de-zoom now. There's a story that says that Francisco Pizarro sent a group of scouts to look for a valley where to establish the city on January the 6th. So those scouts returned to him days after with news, with very good news, of a valley that was really perfect for what they were looking for. At that point, they were not yet sure to keep the capital they already established in the Central Andes in the year 1534, Jauja. So that's why when Pizarro received the news and later he came to the valley and he saw how perfect it was, he thought this was a miracle, and he immediately connected that miracle with the celebration of the Maya kings. So that's why the city was named the City of the Kings, right? So not because of the king and queen of Spain, the City of the Kings because of the Maya kings, right? This is the house of the president of Peru, right? So Peru's, let's say, president lives in this house for 5 years. right? So that's the term of our presidents. The house is heavily protected, as you can see. We have lots of security guards. Maybe you've noticed this minutes ago, are like with shields and guns and all of that. Well, this is the tradition here. We take care a lot of our president, and especially we take care of the tranquility of this location, of the main square. There you can see the flag of Peru. And I don't know if you have noticed that some of the flags of Peru have a coat of arms and some don't. For example, over here. Can you see this one here? This one is missing of a coat of arms. And the reason is because only the official government buildings can use the coat of arms of Peru in the flag. Other people, other civilians, like regular homes, cannot use the flag of Peru with the coat of arms. I am also pointing in this moment in direction to the museum of the Archbishop. The Archbishop building, the Archbishop house, which used to be the house of the Archbishop until the 1960s. Then later they decided to switch it into, slowly into a museum, and now it's used as a museum, is also a neo-colonial construction, neo-colonial building. You can see in the wooden balconies a really interesting detail. Although this is neo-colonial, it is trying to be the most strictly similar to the original wooden balconies of the colonial period. There is a difference between the Republican balconies and the colonial balconies, and it's this element you see over here. Sorry, I will remove my finger so you can see better. So this element you see over there, these little gates, they are called in Spanish celosía. Celosía comes from the word in Spanish celos, or jealousies. It was a system used in the south of Spain during the period of the, let's say, Arab influence that Spain had also. About 800 years, if I remember, Spain, part of Spain was conquered by Arabs. So the Arabs introduced different elements from their own tradition. So they left in Spain their footprint. And for example, the use of this element in the windows. And not just that also. I will show you now a picture. I hope you can get to see this picture of the fashion of the women in the colonial times, right? So when the Spaniards came, they introduced a new religion. They could introduce the Catholic faith, which nowadays about 85% of the population of Peru is Catholic. Some other researchers say that about 80%, but it still is a lot of people that are Catholic. So they introduced the faith, they introduced a new cuisine, they introduced new architecture, and they introduced a fashion. So what you are seeing there is the tapada limeña. The tapada limeña, the fashion of the women in the colonial times, was strongly influenced by Arab style, by the Arab fashion. And women used to cover their faces with a veil and only show one eye, right, when they were out of their homes. The building you are seeing here, by the way, oh, thank you, Pauline. Muchas gracias. Thanks for your team support. And amigos, by the way, as you know, this is a free tour. And if you want to support your guy here in Lima, Hego at the same time also, and this channel, you can also tip during this tour. Muchas gracias, Pauline. So this building you are seeing here in this beautiful sunny day, spring is coming. It's really nice. Soon the days are going to turn much more bright, and the sky will turn blue. So we are seeing the Cathedral of Lima. Lima's cathedral is very special, very, very famous also, because first of all, it's the first church built by the conquistadors, and it was built by the very Francisco Pizarro. Of course, not this one you're seeing here, because this one is later. This is way too big and too pompous to be built by a conquistador. But the first one was built by the conquistadors, and the first stone of that cathedral was placed by Pizarro. It was so important, this building for him, as a symbol also of the initiation, let's say, of the process of evangelization of this land, that he decided, it was his wish, to be buried in this place when he passed away. And that happened, unfortunately for Pizarro also, not many years after establishing the city of Lima. He was murdered by other Spanish, by other conquistadors. You can imagine that all of the greed that was added also to, the abundance of gold and power that one conquistador could have in this land, also started to divide the Spaniards, the conquistadors, in groups. So finally there were two groups, one led by Pizarro, another one led by Diego de Almagro. So finally that, let's say, fight for power, overpower, domination also of land, equal sort of like a treatment to both of them, ended up in first Almagro being killed by the brothers of Pizarro, and later the son of Almagro killing Pizarro here in Lima. So when he died, he was moved to here, to the cathedral, a much more simple cathedral, of course, and buried there. Nowadays, this is a museum, the cathedral, from, let's say, Monday to Sunday. It opens every day, but also you have to check, if you come to Lima, the times when, the opening times, they are not opening straight all day long. For example, on weekdays, they have a break from 1 to 2 p.m., so you can get inside and visit the tomb where Pizarro is buried. On Sunday morning, there is Mass, by the way, if you want to come and hear the Mass. Also, another interesting thing is that the facade of the cathedral is completely different in style to the bell towers. Can you notice that, my friends? Can you notice that? The style of the bell towers is different. And the reason is because the original bell towers were destroyed by an earthquake. So the church you're seeing here, the central body of the church in particular, is from the 17th century. It was inaugurated in the year 1650. The bell towers, of course, were from the same period as well. Gracias, Robert. Thank you. Thanks. But the original bell towers were completely destroyed. Those bell towers were destroyed after an earthquake that was the worst of the history of Peru, so far we know. So, well, we are in a zone that is very active, so one never knows. That earthquake happened in the year 1746, and it was a terrible earthquake. Nowadays, it's been estimated that it was a 9 Richter scale earthquake. Can you imagine that? So the soil shook for 3 minutes, and there were also aftershocks, like constantly. So the whole city of Lima was terribly destroyed by that earthquake, and the viceroy who led the country back then had to rebuild the city. He stayed also for longer time than he had to finish his period to rebuild Lima. We have here a beautiful fountain, which is from before the earthquake, by the way. This fountain is from the year 1651 and is made all in bronze. I think I have an image to share with you also, my friends, that is really cute because, this one here. I think this one is not really that cute because the story behind it is not nice, but I think you will find it really interesting. So if you touch the image that I'm sharing with you, you're going to see something really interesting. I will move a little bit to show you sort of like the same perspective, okay? So we have in the picture a building, very long building, which is the house of the viceroys, my friends. So that is the house of the viceroys at the end of the 17th century. So we have the house of the viceroys, right? And we have the fountain. Can you see the fountain, amigos? I hope you are able to see the picture. By the way, you're very silent. I hope you are still there enjoying the tour. So you can see the fountain on one corner of the picture. You can see a long, let's say, facade in the picture. Gracias, Joy. And you can see also a procession of people, right? Okay, so let me now tell you the story of the picture. That painting is about an auto de fe. What was an auto de fe? Have you ever heard about the auto de fe, my friends? It was not a really happy event. It was a very sad event, to be very honest. In the colonial times, we had the Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition traveled to the Americas because there was a persecution also extended into this direction, into the new world of Jews. I have a tour, by the way, about the Jewish presence in Lima. So I hope you would like me to bring it again to the platform. This was a secret community, to be very honest. Very, very secret community. Oh, Bernhard, I'm so happy that you're still there. The Inquisitors persecuted these, let's say, fake Christians, right? Because they were coming, of course, with documentations and also saying that they were Christians, all Christians, when they were not. They were escaping from the Inquisition in Spain, so of course they were doing whatever was possible to live a better life in the Americas. The Inquisition came after them here. So the auto de fe were a ceremony in which processions of people. These ceremonies didn't happen every year. They happen every 15 years, sometimes 30 years. From that street you see over there, which is next to the Archbishop Palace, the group of people marching into the square came into the plaza, right? And the building that you saw in the painting used to be here. Nowadays, we have the House of the President of Peru. The House of the President of Peru is from the year 1938. But, of course, you can imagine that before this construction, very French, that you see in front, we used to have a complete different architecture, right? The one that you saw in the painting, to be more precise. So in this very space where we are almost, standing, is where Jews were burned. The square of Lima was a place of, for all kinds of events, like happy events, parties, It was also a market site, but also a place where people were killed. And this was the zone where we know there was also burning of Jews in the times of the colonial period or viceroyalty period. Also, what a sad also story, and it's important to never forget because in that way we will never commit mistakes that's so atrocious, like for example the time of the persecution of the Jews, for example, or the Moors or the Protestants in this land. Nowadays we are a land that is multicultural. We have people from different ethnicities and religions in Peru, but still all those different religions are minorities because, in Peru, Catholic faith is way bigger than other religions. Besides Catholic faith, Christian evangelical is also a very big group. The Christian evangelicals are quite big. About 15% of the population of Peru is Christian evangelical. So, as we continue walking, let me now tell you a little bit about the story of the conquest of this land and how the Spaniards were able to annex this land peacefully. Can you imagine that? It was a peaceful annexing of this territory into the sections ruled by the Spaniards, as we walk also in direction to the last stop of our tour today. So the Spanish conquistadors, they form different alliances with different indigenous groups who existed back in the time of the 16th century. When we think about Peru before the Spaniards, most of the time people make the mistake of thinking that there were only Incas at the time of the coming of the Spaniards, for example, in that period of the conquest. But it's not true. The Incas were one of the groups that existed in Peru back in that time. Of course, they were the sort of like conquistadors of their time too. They expanded a lot. They also sort of like annexed lots of territories back then. But there were groups that were supportive of the Incas, and there were groups that were not supportive of the Incas. There were groups that were sort of like resistant to the Inca presence. And those were the groups who later supported the Spanish in their expansion. Also, when we think about the fights between the Spanish and the indigenous, and usually there are some pictures or paintings of those Spaniards in horses fighting the indigenous. To be honest, that really didn't happen in that way, because the Spaniards formed alliances with indigenous groups. So to be more stick to the reality, we have to imagine indigenous fighting indigenous. So that was pretty much the story, the reality back then. So this territory over here, where nowadays Lima is, used to be also ruled by an indigenous group who was at some point loyal to the Incas, but also that had influence from the Central Andes, a governor from the Central Andes. So the Spanish conquistadors, most of them were not of very high rank or birth when they were born, right? For example, that's the case of Francisco Pizarro. Pizarro was, so far we know from official documents, was a humble man, was a very humble man with not really like the education that one will imagine of a man that was able to conquer so much. He was a very smart person, but he was illiterate. We know he was illiterate. So when he came to Peru, he came also with the duty of conquering this land. But in the meantime, he also found different, let's say, elites or groups, dominant groups, and he was given by Inca Atahualpa, the last free Inca of our land, of our country. Inca Atahualpa was captured by the Spaniards, by Francisco Pizarro in the year 1533. So we're talking about 2 years before coming to Lima. So when Inca Atahualpa was captured, he was given, Pizarro was given from him one of his sisters to marry or to create certain union between Pizarro and Atahualpa. Maybe he was thinking that he will be, let's say, forgiven at some point because they were now part of the same family. Hola, Robert. Where was Pizarro born? Pizarro was born, Robert, in Extremadura, in Spain. Trujillo de Extremadura. Actually, we have in Peru, in the north of the country, a city called Trujillo. So it was named after Trujillo de Extremadura, the home of Francisco Pizarro. Extremadura, a land very extreme and harsh, is the meaning of Extremadura in Spanish, was also land of conquistadors, as we know. So in front of us, just a little parenthesis to this story, we have the House of the Peruvian Literature. It's a construction from the year 1912. So we used to have in this section, and also in that part that you see over here, that is the parking of the House of the President of Peru, the monastery and the church of the Desamparados. Do you remember the church I said in the beginning of walking that used to be at the end of the bridge that is now gone? Maybe you remember on the first picture I think I shared with you. So all of this section here used to belong to that monastery, to that church as well. But, well, unfortunately, also the church in the beginnings of the 20th century, so far I remember, it was destroyed, right, to add more land, more space to the house of the president, which is the one you've seen also from different perspectives. Once again, we see here the symbol of UNESCO. We have all restaurants, all bars in downtown Lima, like Bar Cordano, established in the beginnings of the 20th century by Italians, and with the same fashion and same style of the old bars of the 19th century or beginnings of the 20th century. What you can order here is lomo saltado, for example, a sandwich, a local traditional ham sandwich, ceviche, and more. So Well, you know already where you should be coming if you come to Lima in person, if you want to try some delicious Peruvian classical Creole food, and not far away the main square of Lima. All of these streets, this is the Rastro de San Francisco street. A rastro used to be a place where, sort of like a market site, where butchers used to have their stands. So you could buy meat in this place. That was a rastro in the old days. And at the end of this street, we had the market of San Francisco. The first market of Lima was located in the main square of the city. Right? So the main square was a multitasking place. Main square, by the way, in English means, in Spanish, Plaza Mayor. So it's the mayor, the biggest, the most important. So it's not just in size, it's in importance. So there is where the market used to be, where people used to go for water, because people didn't have water to their homes. You can imagine that all of these beautiful colonial houses used to not have water to their, let's say, to their entry, to their homes inside. So that's why the black slaves were employed in those houses. So in that way, they would bring water a couple of times a day from the main plazas of Lima, from the fountains in the city, and they will also bring constantly a supply of water into those homes, which were really beautiful. Some of those homes that you can see have very, very high entranceways, high entrance or doorways. And the reason is because most of the houses of the most important people of Lima used to have carriages and horses. So the horses pull the carriages inside the homes. So this little corridor that nowadays is being used for, let's say, the entrance into the restaurant. There's a counter over there where you pay your meals. So, and there's a patio inside, right? So the patios inside were places where the horses used to rest. Of course, I don't want to enter without permission of the owner, but you can also notice that there is a patio in here, so where the horses could go in, and the carriages were left there, right? So that's why the doorways were so big, because... Sí, adelante, pasen. Gracias, muy amable. Oh, gracias, señora. The lady... owner is allowing me to these people. So look at this. So we have a beautiful house, classical house, the idea of patio, central patio, a place where the vendors from the streets will get in and show their products, and the lady of the house will receive these products and help by the slaves of the house, right? So this is the way how the architecture of Lima used to be influenced by the Spanish current, artistic constructive current from the south of Spain. Como un zaguán. Yes, Jorge, exactly. We don't use the word zaguán much, but it would be like a patio for us. I don't know if you use the word patio, but it would be a patio. So these patios were spaces where, the first one at least, where the vendors could get in, offer products, and then later, just go away. So the patios were the actual entrance into the house, because at the entrance, what we will call the entrance, is at the external section, is where usually the house had, for example, stores. This is the way how many people used to make money also from their land, from their houses. They put on rent spaces outside their houses, or they maybe had their own stores. For example, they sold products like fabrics or maybe food, things like that, right? So that's the reason of those spaces at the entrance. They were used as businesses. And here we have, as the final point of this tour in the historic center of Lima, a church that is very, very important. And as you can see, so important that in this moment it's in process of investigation, restoration partially, and it is going to be also touristic destination in the historic center. The name of this church is Iglesia de San Francisco de Jesús el Grande, or Church of St. Francis of Jesus the Great. This is the Church of the Franciscan Order in Lima. The Franciscan Order came with the Spaniards very early, actually, in the conquest of this land. The first religious order that came with the Spaniards was the Dominican order. They came with the Spaniards and they conquered the land, and they were here witnessing when Francisco Pizarro established Lima. But later, about a year after, the Franciscans started to come, and they built here their church. Also, the church is famous, but I think the most famous part within the building of the Franciscans is the catacombs. Can you see here the name catacumbas? So the catacombs of St. Francis, known as the first public cemetery of Lima, is, to be honest, the most famous museum we have in the historic center. So we are trying also to expand the circuit into the external section, where recently archaeologists have been able to discover, during some works of renovations in the soil. As you can see, also the floor is now all adapted with cobblestone for pedestrians. So cars are not allowed to circulate in this section unless they belong to owners that live in this part. So in the patio, at the entrance, let's say, or atrium of the church, there have been discovered original tiles, for example, underground tiles that belong to chapels that were underground. Also some burial sites, some elements that will be soon part of a really interesting touristic circuit that will be added to the already existing circuit in the church. The church became part of the UNESCO, let's say, list of buildings in the year 1988, and later, you know, the whole historic center is a UNESCO site. So make sure of coming to this museum if you are in Lima. Of course, the entrance is through here in this moment. We are just doing some renovations, but everything is working still the same. And in the distance, to finish the tour, we can see the hills, the mountains, we can see the new Lima, the Lima of the 1940s, that shanty town, former shanty town on the hill that was created after the migration of people from the Andes of Peru to Lima in the 1940s. And Lima is a city with lots of different influences. We are a let's say, ethnical city. We have influences from different parts of the world. But of course, as you know, the Spanish influence was very important, because now we speak Spanish. Hablamos español, as you know. Most Peruvians are Catholic. We see the world also in a more Western way, although we have our indigenous traditions still existing that have mixed with the ones of the Spanish conquistadors. I really hope you enjoy this tour, my friends. We've been in the main square of Lima, around the historic center, walking for about 50 minutes together in this park. Thanks a lot for your tip support, my friends. Gracias, Nilu. Thank you, thank you. If you would like to support this channel, to do a little contribution to this channel, to your tour guide in Lima, I will activate a button that will help you with how you can get into the tip section. Your contributions help a lot to continue doing events and tours like this one, take you to different places. Also, there is another way to support this channel, which is becoming a sponsor. If you wish to become a sponsor, with a little donation every month that you're going to be also repeating every month. Also, at the end of this tour, you can jump to my profile and see how you can do it. It would be lovely if I can have also your support. And also, we are splitting all the support with Heygo, as you know already. Heygo is a free platform, so the way we can keep this platform going like this is with your donation. Much you enjoyed the tour. Gracias, Robert. It's been wonderful to have you. Thanks a lot for your questions, amigos. Gracias, Anastasia. Thanks for your help. Gracias, Jorge, for your tip support. It helps me really a lot. So I hope to see you soon. I will be doing also many more tours, and probably I'm going to be traveling this weekend, so I think I'm going to take you to some really nice sites. So stay, let's say, tuned. And if you can, please activate the follow button so you can see my upcoming tours. Next week I will do a lot of different tours. For the rest of the month, I will be doing some interesting tours also. If you love bird watching, you have to follow my channel because I will be doing a special bird watching tour soon. So, gracias amigos, gracias Zilu, gracias Anastasia. Take care, lots of love from your friend and tour guide in Lima, Peru. See you soon. Bye-bye. Take care.